How do you make cinematic shots? Episode 9 in Season 1 of the anime series Chainsaw Man showcases many examples of dynamic cinematic shots, so let's try to break them down. In cinematic shot number 1, we see a very dramatic Dutch angle where Denji fights Samurai's sword. The camera's placed low, close to the ground, and we see the sword on screen left, extending toward the camera lens with a dramatic perspective. Denji is placed more in the midground, moving to prep his next attack. The background buildings are slightly out of focus to help create a sense of spatial depth. The sparks of the sword making contact with the ground on screen left and floating debris within the composition helps to heighten the visual drama of the fight. In cinematic shot number 2, the camera places us right in the heart of the fight between Denji and Samurai's sword, staying close to the ground but pointing almost directly up at them as they circle around the camera. We see the sky plane moving by quickly in the background. The perspective cues on Denji and Samurai's sword suggest a 3-point perspective grid within the shot. We essentially see a parallax effect between the characters moving within the frame, contrasting against the moving background. In cinematic shot number 3, Makima is on screen right in side profile view as other characters exit from the subway train. The perspective cues of the train and the station's structural elements create a 1-point perspective composition. A longer camera lens is likely being used to frame the shot, keeping our field of view around Makima and some of the surrounding environment. In cinematic shot number 4, we see Makima again in the center of the frame, and the bottom of the camera frame cuts right below her knees. With this symmetrical composition, the blurred out building in the background helps to frame Makima within the shot and direct our eyes toward her. There are fewer perspective cues within the shot, creating a flatter composition. A longer camera lens also appears to be used in this shot, compressing all the visual planes. In cinematic shot number 5, Denji is knocked out on screen right, while some of Akani's gang try to move him into a van. The camera is tilted at a Dutch angle, informed by the perspective cues of the background building elements that are slightly out of focus. With only Denji in focus in the shot, the composition gives us a sense of his mental state, as he is likely less aware of the people around him. In cinematic shot number 6, Akane appears in the center of the frame in the midground, and we see another use of placing a character's head with some eye acting in the foreground to help heighten the drama of the current story beat. With all the visual elements generally pressed together within the shot, Akane appears more boxed in within the composition, which helps cue us into what is about to happen in this scene. In cinematic shot number 7, the camera captures a closer upshot on Akane as she dynamically moves within the environmental space. The background building details are out of focus, helping to create a sense of spatial depth. We're likely seeing another longer camera lens being used to frame this composition, as Akane's acting is the focus of the shot. In cinematic shot number 8, Kobeni launches into attack on the antagonist. The camera is placed a little higher above her as she rapidly runs across part of the devil's form. Her dynamic posing contrasts with the sad expression on her face with half-lidded eyes. The sketchier edges on her shadow below her also help to create a sense of movement as she moves across the screen. In cinematic shot number 9, the camera captures Akane in a dynamic angle and composition. The camera is placed closer to the bottom of the car seat, tilted up toward her as she looks off-screen to the action happening outside of the van. The background building's blurred-out details suggest a 3-point perspective grid within the frame. The dramatic upshot on Akane helps to sell the drama playing out within the scene. In cinematic shot number 10, we see Kobeni tending to an injured Denji on the pavement. The camera is placed farther back from them, and the grid pattern of the sidewalk helps to act as a perspective grid. The slightly out of focus bloodstains on the ground are out of focus at the bottom of the frame, and they lead our eyes up to where Kobeni and Denji are staged near the top of the frame at the center. The horizon line needs to be higher in the frame in order to get a sense of the spatial context along the sidewalk, as we see more of the ground plane. So overall, these technical descriptions of each shot helps break down the elements of what makes them cinematic. The language of film is shown in composition, lens choice, and camera movement are well executed in this episode to heighten the drama and action.